All right. Wait. Now, all right. So that was a quick check. Microphone works. All right. We're good to go. So let's do some more compile and WebAssembly things in PureScript. So I streamed a little today, and we wrote a parser for a little language that we're going to be using as our vehicle for compiling stuff to WebAssembly. And this is the result of calling the parser for that language on this input. Just need to load it up real quick. So this is the input here. So you can see it kind of looks like an untyped Rust syntax-wise. And it's very basic. But it has function declarations, it's got some let bindings, and it has nested expressions with calls and that. So it's complicated enough that there's a bunch of interesting stuff we can do. However, I think it would be good to have a pretty printer, because it's going to be really hard to look at this output for too long and figure out what's going on as soon as we have a tiny bit more complicated output as we have here. And for that purpose, I'm going to look at the Dodo printer library, which is a library by Nate over here. And in general, Nate makes awesome libraries. So I'm really looking forward to trying this one out. I'm pretty, I'd say, experienced when it comes to parsing. I've parsed a whole bunch of stuff, but when it comes to pretty printing, I'm actually kind of a noob. So I just want to try this one out. It's nicely documented. Because it's a Nate library, the API is probably going to be nice and simple. So we shall just try that, I'd say. All right. So let's try to pretty print this one. So this is the AST. We had a parser module. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say we'll also have a pretty module here. Or maybe let's call it the printer, actually. So we have a parser and a printer. Yeah, that seems fine to me. And in here, we're going to have the prelude. And then we're going to have the Dodo library. And we need to install that one quickly. So dodo-printer is what it is called. And that was nice and easy. Okay, so if I were to say build this, all of that works, and we now have a bit of Dodo stuff in here. Okay, cool. Hello, welcome to the guys hanging out, or gals. So, I think the module is just called Dodo. And I don't know what's in here for now, so I'm just going to call it imported qualified. We might not do that, because I think we might be writing a bunch of these. Okay, and so I'm assuming the most important type in here is this doc type, which is what it says up here. So the core type of Dodo is a doc, which represents a document, and it has one type parameters which represents annotation. So this supports annotations, which can be really nice when we do eventually, potentially, do things like annotate expressions with types. Then we can have those show up in the pretty printer and maybe on mouse over or something, print out more interactive documents, which can be kind of nice. So the most primitive ways to construct and manipulate docs are via text and monoid. Okay, so we can make texts from strings. Then we can concatenate them with the monoid instance. And that also means there's a empty, so the empty text document, essentially. Okay, And so that's how we make a document. So let's just say really what we want is a function in the end. We can already figure out the type we want here. So we're going to import this one from func. And we want to be able to print out an array of func and turn it into, I'm assuming, a string. So this is the print funcs function maybe. Okay, and so for that we're going to call, as we see down here, print plain text 2 spaces, and all of these seem to be from Dodo. I'm just going to import these unqualified. I think that's better. And then hello is the document I had, and well, I'm just going to pretend like we have a pretty printer for funcs here. So let's call all of those render, maybe render funcs on funcs, I guess. Good evening, Christian. How's it going? I hope you are doing well. So you know what? Let's actually make this a map. So we're gonna render a func, and then we're gonna I think there's an intersperse function. I'm not quite sure. All just chilling. That's lovely. Interpolate. I'm doing well. I had a pretty reasonable stream today, I think. Before we built like a parser for the language we're doing here in like, I think it was like something like 30 to 40 minutes. So we chugged along nicely. And now I'm doing the other way around. So I'm building a pretty printer. I think that's going to take a little longer just because I'm not as experienced in pretty printing. But when we have this pretty printer, we're in a fantastic position to look into compiling to Wasm more and be able to inspect what we're actually doing on the way. So that's kind of important. So now to intersperse these, I want to do something like new line breaks, hard breaks. Is there a break thing? Yeah. So we're going to put like 2 breaks in there. That should be good enough. Right, I think so too. So this takes a func to a document of A. And for now, we're just gonna say, well, we're just gonna work with the with them empty one. No, wait, what? Doc from Dodo, please. And this is a func of A, which is a different A. Damn it. Actually, this is a text. Right, we can only do this for strings. And that might not be entirely correct. So I think what we want to do eventually is actually accept the function that renders the A into some thing. But we will see about that. All right, cool. So this compiles, and my hope is that if we say, well, let's use a text here. So this is a text, and I'm going to say, let's just print the function's name, I guess. Right, so we have a function which has a name, parameters, and a body. And so for now, we're just going to print out the name. What do you not like about this one? Okay, this is fine. And then we can go ahead and try to use this function from a main. Right, so my goal here eventually is to only export print funcs. Maybe we're gonna have a couple print functions for expressions as well. I'm just gonna export print funcs for now, and we'll go into main. And okay, so this parses the funcs. Parsed funcs. Okay, so what are we gonna do? So the problem is that this returns an either. So I'm gonna. Oops, that was not the intention. So we have this, and then I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna parse these funcs, and then not where off So in case we have a parse error, we're just gonna log show that. So console.log show the errors. In case we succeed, we get a bunch of funcs, and what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna log printer.print funcs, like so, and then we're gonna pass the function there. All right, so let's try to run this. What should this? Let's think about what this should give us for now. It should give us add, fib, and main separated by 2 new lines in between each. That's just the build. Let's actually run it, and I'm gonna move it up to the top of the screen where you can actually see it. So let's do that. That looks good. Those are our function names separated by 2 new lines. Or, well, separated by 1 new line, but you can see what I'm saying. So this is starting to look pretty good. Well, we're going to prefix, if we actually were to print this, right? We want to start out by prefixing the thing with func, with fn. Exactly. And then, and now we need to parse the parameter list. So how do you parse the parameter list? Well, we're going to start with just this. And I'm sure there's actually going to be a nicer way of going about it. But for now, this is good enough, I think. So these are the params. And then what are we going to do? We're going to say we want to print these params with something in between. I bet there's a function in here. So let's see if we can't find that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import this thing qualified again, because that makes it so much easier to search through it. So what do we have here? Do we have something which combines, oh, there's an enclose, okay. Enclose with separate, okay, so that sounds like the thing we want, even though it's kind of MS. But enclose with separator sounds like what we want. Okay, so let's think about this. So it accepts 2 documents, 3 documents. Now it would be really nice to have the names of these. Let's just try. So 3 documents. Let's assume that this is the first one. So what's this one? That's the an L paren, like so, and we're going to make an R paren, which is the other way around, like so. And both of these are going to be documents. So for all A, these are doc A's, and that's true for both of them, with a new line between. Okay, so what do we have? We're enclosing it in L paren and R paren. Then I'm assuming that's just the comma here. And now we need the comma with a bit of a space after it. A space as well. Exactly, you're absolutely right. So we're just gonna use a space here. I think it probably exports that one. So space. We're not gonna let it break, so I'm gonna say space here. I bet there's an operator for this. Is there an operator? Is it like this? Most of these have something like this. We'll see in a second. What is the problem? Okay, so this is a comma. Now we are going to have to write this one out. Like so. And as you said, exactly, we need comma space to be the thing here as well. And now, what's going on here? Okay, I'm gonna send to this one. So what do we have? We have the thing we're missing here is the params, right? Is that the last one? And we need to map text over those. Like so. So that supposedly works. I'm not entirely sure if I trust it, but we can see. So, look, that looks pretty good. Is that in the right order? It is. Okay, cool. So that's how that works. So that's how we're going to render that one. So what's the next thing? Well, now we need the braces, right? So let's do an L brace. And I'm assuming I could probably do something interesting here. I'm gonna do by hand for now, and then we can figure out later if we actually want to be smarter than this. So we're gonna append an L brace and an R brace, and then in the middle here comes the rendered expression. And again, there's gonna be a bunch of space around here. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna put it in there for now, and then we'll decide what we want to do here. So this is going to be a break. And I want a hard break there. So let's put that one down here, and then let's put this one down here. Let's actually put the space up there. I think that makes more sense. And the rendered expression is kind of in here. And then it's complaining that it doesn't have these, which is right. So these are L and R braces. That's an L brace though. Like so. And then it says render expert. Well, yeah, we don't have that function yet. So let's just fake it until we make it. So render expert. It's going to take an expert string to a document, and it's always going to return 42 because that's the best expression. Like so. We need an import for expert. There we go. And then what are you complaining about here? Right, the body is not an expert. This is not lambda calculus. This the body is actually a bunch of declarations. So we're gonna have to do something else here. So we're gonna have to do something about. I'm just gonna call it render body for now, and that's gonna be a bit trickier, but I'll figure that out when we have to. So I'm just gonna say for now. Oh yeah, and we don't even need to do this, so this could just be the body document or something. And again, for now, I'm just gonna make this 42, but yeah, this will have to become more complicated. But we need to take it one step at a time. So how does this look? Supposedly it's gonna look silly. There we go. This looks silly. So what do we need here? We need another break, and then. The thing is that we kind of want the body to move, be indented. So that's when we need to look up how to do indentation in here. So Dodo treats indentation as a separate configurable thing. Indentation is only over line prefix and print or the amount of line breaks and before text. Okay. So we can use indent. And we could say we want to indent the whole body by something. Okay. And then what does that give us? All right. That looks about right. We moved this thing in by a bit. Now, one thing I want to test is what happens if I were to add another level of indentation, but I guess we're going to test that when we get to it. So now let's try to clean this thing up because this is kind of a mess, right? Now we're firmly in mess land. Okay, so let's clean it up. So we're going to say by starting out with, well, this is really the header, right? And the header is, let's say this thing, and we have the params. Do I postfix these with D to say document? Maybe. So this is what this is, and now I'm wondering if Dodo has a function that lets me concatenate with a space in between. I bet it does, because that's such a common need. So let's see if we can find that. So let's say I wanted to reload the whole thing. Could I go to definition on this one? No. All right, let's try to look into the library then, see if we can find something. So what do we have here? That sounds like stuff we could use. So JS curlies. Oh, I love this. This sounds great. So Dodo common, that's the one we're going to use. So Dodo common as, I guess I'm going to call it C for common. And so that sounds fantastic. So what if I were to say, does export, it exports everything. So if I said JS curlies on this thing, is that all I need to do? So JS curlies, so JS curlies on body doc. And then I'm just gonna assemble it back together. So we have the header document with the param document. And the body doc is still this thing. We should move this back up here as well. So not body doc, but just body D now, and then we're just gonna do this. Okay, let's see if that works. That would be weird, but also awesome. Okay, so it doesn't do it because, I'm assuming because these fit on the same line. I think I want the heartbreak though. Yeah, I always want the break. I don't want this to be, to depend on the size. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this definition into my own thing over here. And we're gonna do it a little bit different. So these are just curlies now because these are our curlies. Now we need a bunch of imports for these things. Okay, and then, okay, an empty block, I can understand that that's that, but I want a hard break after these. So flex alt, and I think I'm just gonna go with this. I don't think I need the flex alt at all. I think that's all I need, really. And then we can just use curlies here, hopefully. And now I'd like to have my annotation back, please. There you go. It looks good. So that's lovely. And if we had an empty thing here, so if I made this be this. Wait, how does this work? Yes, if I did this, do I just get a block, a simple block? Yes, okay, so perfect, that works. And I guess if we're importing that one unqualified, we might as well import this one. Okay, so those are our curlies. Now, I think we might still want the JS params. The thing is, if we do this, I think we're gonna need to put a bit of extra stuff in between. So I'm gonna take these, and here I do actually want the behavior, so these are good to me. Oops. I want the extra breaking behavior, so that's good to me. But I need to do, I think what I want to do is I want to do something where I get an array here, and actually say these are not just parentheses. Do I want parentheses with just this? Maybe let's worry about that when we need it. For now, we should be good with just using parens here, right? So let's get rid of these things because we're not going to do that. And let's just say that this is actually a thing where we parens this, and then we're going to write a comma sep thing maybe. So let's do that. So how do we comma separate things? So we get an array, well really we get a foldable A of f of A, f of doc of A, sorry, and we turn it into a single document of A. Right. So what do we do? I think we use a fold, but I'm not sure, and we might need to okay, so we're gonna make this a flex group, I believe. Okay, so we have a flex group. Now, what are we gonna do? We want to concatenate these together with what is this? Leading comma and trailing comma? Oh, depending on whether we want to do trailing commas or leading commas. I think I want to do trailing commas. Yeah, let's do trailing ones. So what are we going to do? We're going to map. No, we're just going to intercalate, I believe. C dot trailing comma on these, like so, maybe. Do we need to put an indent in there? I'm kind of looking at this and trying to figure out where I need to. Do we? Yes, we're going to indent the whole thing. So this whole group needs to be indented, like so. I think. And then I'm going to be back in a second. Just need to let my cat in. Who will let the cats out? Exactly. Well, to be honest, that would be me. So it's my own fault. And I used the opportunity to also grab a cup of coffee again. So now we're back. So why did we put the indent here? Well, let's try and see if we can't produce a situation where this indent is helpful. So let's do without it for now. I have a feeling that I can produce a situation where it's helpful. So what are we going to do is we're going to comma sep map TextBram. So this looks fine to me. And now let's do this first. And so what I think we should be doing, I think that we should get the exact same output as we got before. No, we do not, because this is the wrong parentheses. So this is, yeah, this should be closed like so. So that looks like a PR to me. So Let's just make a quick one here. So let's just make a quick change. Typo. Okay, so let's just check if there's more typos like that in here. If there's not, we're gonna just open the PR. Okay, that should be good enough. All right, cool. So we fixed that one that we rendered, and all of this seems fine. So now we get to the part where I do long parameter names. War. And let's see if this is already large enough to break it. If it's not, we're gonna just copy these a bunch of times. So this still fits in a single line apparently. Well, how about this? There we go. And so this looks fine to me. There's a nice bit of indentation in between here. Wait, didn't I take out that indent block? How does this work? I thought I needed it. What happens if I put the indent back in? I mean, this is exactly what I want, so. Oh, it gives an extra. I don't want more indentation. I think one is fine. Yeah, this works for me. Okay, cool. So good that we checked this out, because that's exactly what I want. All right, cool. Yeah, so let's not do that. Go back to when things were nice. All right, cool. So I think those are nice. Now, how do we want to? How about the whole render body thing? Because that's a tricky bit, right? I think we're doing the whole header part right, and now comes the body. That's where all the work happens. Okay, so what's the body? The body is an array of declarations. And so what we're going to do is we're going to render out each declaration, put a semicolon at the end, and then a hard break. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to say fold. No, we're not going to fold map. We're going to map render declaration. Render decal, I guess. Render decal. Render decal over the body. Okay, then we're going to, after we've rendered the declaration, we're going to append a semicolon to the end of every single one of those. And that'll, is that gonna mess with our parser? It is, right? We don't want to do it for the last one, I guess. Okay, so let's try something else. Let's use something better here. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna do a not enclose, but something like, we did this before, right? We had, there's a bunch of folds in here, I think. So what do we need? We need a function that, I guess we could do this. Could use another intercalate, but I'm not sure if that's the right call here. Anyway, we're just gonna do that for now, and then we'll figure it out eventually. So we're just gonna use a fold here from data array, I guess. That works for me. And oh wait, so in that case we could just say fold like so. And then we can do that. And then so the intercalate is gonna accept the thing we want to put in between here, and that's gonna be a semicolon. So text semicolon followed by a break. And this is a break that I do not want indentation on, so I'm hoping that works. So let's write out render decal, which is going to look very similar to render expert. All right, like so. But declarations are actually 24. Now let's use a different name. Let's use 33. And we import that. And now, what do we get? What do you not like about this? No instance was foldable doc. Oh, this already does all the work of mushing these together. Right. We don't need this import then. Okay, let's try. Again. All right, cool. So Fibonacci has 2 declarations in it, so that's why it renders out as 2 declarations here, and these look fine. Now, this whole intercalate with something and then map some function over it, I have a feeling that that is something that is going to happen a couple of times because we're already doing it over here as well. So I want to check if there's a function that kind of does that. So if I went d dot, did I remove the import again? I should really stop doing that. Okay, so do we have something that appends things that way? So this is the fold with separate. I have a feeling that that's kind of what we want, but we want a mapping function on top. So fold with, oh, that is the plus with space. That's the one we're looking for. So plus with space is a thing. I don't even know what these do. Okay, so, all right. So we have a couple of things we could use here. So it looks like fold with separator is this thing. Wait, is fold with separator just intercalate? So we're not gaining anything here. Let's just check. Fold with separator is appends a series of documents together with a given append function. This is notable because it ignores empty documents. Okay, this example is kind of busted as well, but that's fine. Okay, so append space is that. So we're going to use that a bunch. So this is just going to be this thing then. And I think I will be back in a second. Yeah, sounds like my wife just came back, so I'm just going to say hi. I'll be back in a second. Alright, thanks for sticking around. I am back. So this less than plus greater than is, well, append with a space in between. So we're going to use that in the few places we had where we put the extra space in so far. So I'm wondering where this space between the curlies is coming from. Oh, that's from this thing. Right, and we don't want the parentheses between the name and the params. That's why this is, okay, so that looks good to me. So now we have, what are we looking at again? Okay, so all of these look fine. And fold with separator is essentially the same as intercalate. So, I mean, we can keep using that, that's fine. So there's two types of declarations. So we're gonna write a case statement here. So if we are to look at a let declaration, then we have a name and a, I'm gonna call it an expr. Yeah, that's probably good enough. Then the other case is an expr declaration. We just have an expr, and then, well, this one is just gonna be render expr of expr, right? And now this is a little more tricky, so we're gonna say this is gonna be let, and then we're going to plus the name, right? And then we're gonna plus an equals, like so. And then we are going to render out the expression. Now, it is possible that we want to implement some kind of smart break behavior in between here, right? So we could say this is either an equals or we're going to break with some indentation. I think that's good enough. Do you not like this? So do I need to do this thing? Oh, I need to tell it how to break stuff. You know what? I'm going to tell it to treat all these things as one expression. Like so. So let's just see if that works. I'm going to run. So I expect to see a change in the... Okay, so those that were just expressions are now 42s because, well, they run through this case. But the one let expression we have over here, let declaration actually works out, right? So we say let2 equals 42, and if we look up here, there's let2 and then some expression, because right now we're kind of butchering these. So let's do these, which are these are the hardest ones, right? So it's only fair that these are the trickiest ones. So these are expressions. Okay, so what do we have here? So this is an int literal and this is a boolean literal. For both of these, we're just going to say texts of showing them. Okay, so if we have a variable, well, that's just the variable. And these are all a little more tricky. Okay, so let's just make all of these 42 for now, and then we can figure them out later. All right, cool. So let's go again. And the main thing I wanted to see is that this is now 2, so that worked, right? We're running into this case here. We don't have a boolean literal anywhere in the example, so that's not going to be very successful for now. I think we're actually going to have the easiest time with the if block here. So this is the condition, this is then, and this is else. So I'm just going to call these T and E, I guess. So how does an if, what does an if look like? So we have the condition here. So this is plussing together if and the rendered condition. Right, and then what are we going to do? So the next thing we do is we say, okay, we're going to plus that together with curlies around the rendered then expression. Then we're going to say, okay, that looks fine to me. So let's say, and then we're going to put an else in there. So text else, and this is text if. And let's align it as if it was actually happening. So So these are curlies, and then we get the else, and then this is where we get more curlies, right? So this is curlies render expr of else, right? I think so. Let's try this one out. I'm hoping to see some change in the Fibonacci situation because we have an if here. So now we have if else, so that looks fine. And now we just need to render these things. And we can see that the then branch already works out because this is exactly what we wanted to print here. Cool. So what is this? These are binary expressions. Okay, so let's do those next. So we have an operator here. And then we have E1 and E2. Or we could say left and right, I guess. Right? So how do we render a binary operation? I don't think I want to break in between binary operations ever. So I'm not going to allow that. I'm not sure if that's going to work. Anyway, we're just gonna roll with it for now. So what do we do? Step one, we render the left expression, right? Then we render the operator, and we don't have a function for that yet, but we're going to do that in a second. And then we just render the expression on the right. So it's now going to complain that it does not have a render op function. That's fine. We're going to write one. So we're going to say render op takes an operator to a document of A. And okay, let's do that next. So here we have all of the operators. So how do we do that? Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, all of these are just going to be text in the end. So this is just plus, minus, times, divided by, less than, greater than, less than equals, greater than equals, and equals. Like so. And it's complaining that it does not know op because we need to import that, and then, well, it just imported the type, but we need the constructors as well to be able to pet match on it. Okay, and so now this should give us the condition, I think. So there we go, x is less than 2, 1, else, and here we're still doing 42. I was kind of hoping that, oh no, wait, there's a function call on the outside. So we need to do the call. Right, so this is the func, and this is the arguments to the func. So how do we do a function call? Well, really we start out with the func, and then we have params. Right, we have params around the comma separated args, and those we need to map a render expr over, I think. Let's try that one out. And that looks good to me. That's exactly the thing we have up here, right? So we now have a pretty printer that lays things out in a way as I would by hand, which is nice. And this is going to make it a lot easier for us to look at these expressions as we're working on them, right? And I'm actually going to export a couple of these. So this print funcs is the thing we use for main, really. I'm going to put this. I'm going to put those actually at the top, actually, because we use them a bunch of places. Do we have comma anywhere? Just comma set, right? Okay, so that's fine. So here we go. So we're going to print funcs, and then we have print expr. So this just takes an expr of strings. And what do we do here and here? Well, we just say render expr, right? And so let's make an internal print, print prime or something, which is this thing. And we're gonna let it infer the type for us. There we go. And then we're just going to say print prime in these cases. And we can, well, I don't mind. We can write this out. And we're going to do this one more time for declarations, in case we ever need to print those. Okay. There's a decal. Okay, so let's call that one render decal. Call this one print decal, like so. Okay, I think that should do it. And then I'm just gonna export all of these, print funcs, print expr, print decal, like so. Cool. Shall we try to make this a little more absurd? Let's try, see what happens. Okay, so what are you gonna do if I give you something strange? Really, this still fits in a single line. How about this? That's not too bad. All right, cool, seems to work. Great. So now we can parse these things and we can print them back out. So I think this is a great commit, right? It seems fine to me. And again, I want to say at this point, I just want to say thanks to Nate because his libraries are so awesome. That was the most painless experience I had with a picture printer ever. So let's just expend a big thanks to Nate. So adds pretty printers for our IC. And eventually we're also going to use this library to preprint the WebAssembly textual format, but that doesn't really, I don't think we need that right now. If we find that we're debugging a bunch of WebAssembly, we're going to start wanting it. Right. So actually, I'm wondering if for the sake of the YouTube export, I should just stop the stream for a second and restart it back up. I think I'm going to do that because that way it's going to be easier to export this. So see you in a minute.